The Everleys were a very special thing. I think it's where the Beatles got the two people in harmony thing. John and I were the Everleys, really, when we started up. A lot of people, most people when they start up, I think they imitate someone. And we did. And one of our imitations really was the Everleys. So.
Phil and Don Everly's close-knit harmonies were highly influential on the Beatles' music and their own unique harmony sound. The Everly Brothers first released Bye Bye Love in the UK on the 5th of July 1957, one day before John first met Paul at the Wharton Church Fete. Almost 12 years later, the Fab Four got to jam on their very own version of Bye Bye Love during the Get Back sessions. Paul McCartney has said that he and John used to pretend they were the Everly Brothers. When John and I first started to write songs, I was Phil and he was Don. Conversely, during Get Back and one performance of two of us, Paul can be heard saying to John, "Take it, Phil." In the first volume of Mark Lewison's Tune In, Paul, upon hearing the Everlys sing All I Have to Do Is Dream in 1958, recounts when he, John, and newly recruited guitarist George were still teenagers. When we first heard it, it blew us away. This respect manifested itself in one of the Beatles' earliest sessions for the BBC for Pop Goes the Beatles in July 1963, when John takes up lead vocals on So How Come No One Loves Me, a deep cut from a date with the Everly Brothers, an earlier 1960 release.
They say that everyone loves someone, so how come no one loves me?
The ultimate nod to the Everlys from Lennon and McCartney probably came with Please Please Me, which is based in part on the vocal arrangements for Kathy's Clown. George, too, was a fan and released his own version of Bye Bye Love in 1974 on the Dark Horse album, at the same time providing additional new lyrics.
There goes our lady.
Paul's love for the Everlys has never been understated, and he even name-checked Phil and Don in the lyrics of his 1976 smash hit Let 'Em In. Their names reference side by side, along with members of Paul's family, as well as Martin Luther. During the 1960s, the paths of the Beatles and the Everlys sadly never crossed physically. Much later, in 1984, Paul was asked to write the opening track for the Everly Brothers' comeback album EB84, a perfectly pitched homage to their classic hits. Paul also finally got to record with his two heroes, contributing added guitar to On the Wings of a Nightingale.
Together, I think a lot of people in my generation always wanted the Everlys to get back together. It's, it was always something we wanted. I suppose later generations always wanted the Beatles to get back together. It would been that kind of dream for us to get the Everlys back. So when we knew they were going to do it, and Dave asked me, I jumped at the chance. I said, give me a week, see if I can come up with anything, And I said, because I didn't want to come up with something that I thought was wrong. So I just, in that week, I came up with On the Wings of a Nightingale. And then I liked it, and the Everlys liked it. That was the main thing. It sounded just like an Everly.